Hi everyone, welcome back to the Commander's Lair. It's Joey here. Today I will be sharing my Elminster deck. So this command is actually really interesting. I didn't think it would be when I first saw him. I thought he was quite boring. I didn't really read into him much at all. But then I kind of had another look at him. And I think he's really cool. So basically, it's 3 in a white and a blue for a planeswalker. And it comes in with 5 loyalty. And it has, whenever you scry, the next instant or sorcery spell you cast this turn costs X as to cast, or X is the number of cards looked at while scrying this way. So it's a static ability, and then it has a +2, draw a card, then scry 2, and then -3, and then exile the top card of your library, and then create a number of 1/1 blue fairy dragon creature tokens with flying equal to that card's CMC. And obviously he can be your commander. It's important to know that if anyone doesn't know, scry basically means you look at the top card of your library, and then you can put it either on the top or the bottom, and you get to pick which order. And that stacks of however many instances it is. So if it's scry 7, you would look at the top 7, and you can put them whichever order on the top or bottom, and they can be separated. So basically, we're not really worrying about that last ability too much. You could potentially use it if it's endgame and you think you could win with it, or like, you've scried and you've got some, massive thing, because there are some massive spells in this deck on the top of your library. What we're going to be doing is focusing on that first ability and the ability there, obviously the static one. So going to be scrying heaps, and just reducing the cost of our spells. This is mostly a blue deck, so it's going to be playing lots of, blue cards, not many white. It just didn't really fit very well with the whole theme, because obviously white doesn't scry very much. So we're just going to be scrying, heaps, seeing all the cards in our deck, drawing a lot as well. And then Element is going to be basically reducing the cost of all our spells. And then with one use of his ability, realistically should be enough to scry all that, make sure he's out on the battlefield, and then pay off through the massive instance of sorceries going to be able to cast through that. So with our ramp, obviously our commander technically has ramp on him, but it's obviously quite situational and it requires a bit of setup, and obviously it requires our commander to be on the battlefield. So most of our ramp is particularly used for getting Elminster out. There are some cards also in the deck, some of the payoffs, some of the things that scry for us, that are, creatures, enchantments, or whatever mostly. But elements is what this is in the deck for. So basically, Soul Ring, it comes in for 1 mana and it taps for 2 colorless. Obviously, I'm sure everyone knows that. Then a lot of the other cards we're running are, the signets like Arcane Signet and Azorius Signet, just, really useful kind of generic RAM cards. We're not running too many of those, just a couple. And Thought Vessel's also really nice. This is definitely one of the more suited cards in this deck. So it's 2 colorless, or for 2 generic for an artifact, and you have no maximum hand size and you can tap to add a colorless. So the hand size is really useful because, as I mentioned, we're going to be drawing heaps and scrying heaps, so that's going to just be really nice value. And then Jace's Sanctum does double duty in this deck, so it's 3 and a blue for an enchantment. Instant sorceries you spellcast 1 less to cast, and whenever you cast an instant sorcery, you scry 1. So what that's going to do is that scry is going to make the next one cost 1 less to cast as well. So basically this is going to be 4 mana, all of your instances of sorceries, besides the first one you play each turn, cost 2 less. It's just going to be, really useful and a constant reduction that's just going to get better and better as we play more spells throughout the game. So for the draw, we are going to be having a bunch of built-in draw. That kind of synergizes with both drawing and, scrying at the same time. So Force is a perfect example. It's 3 and a blue for a sorcery, scry 4, then draw 2. So this will be 4 mana. It's going to technically, and when you think about it, it's going to be 4 mana and then draw 2, or 0 mana, draw 2 cards, because that 4 mana will get recycled by Elminster. So the next card we play will cost 4 less. So realistically, it's as if this costs no mana, draw 2, which is obviously quite good. And then Elegith is the next one. This one, it could be seen as potentially a non-bow, because obviously Elegith is replacing, because I'll actually read the card first. So Elegode Crossroads Augur is 4 blue for a 5/6 legendary creature Sphinx with flying, and if you would scry a number of cards, draw that many cards instead. So it has partner. That's not really relevant right now though. Basically, the reason this could be a non-bow is because it is a replacement effect, so it does not let you scry them. So Elements's ability will not trigger, because it says if and then instead, so which means it's a replacement. So no cards are being scried; they'll all be being drawn. But I basically kind of just considered that this card is so powerful that realistically I feel like we should be able to win the game if we're drawing 20, 30 cards. This is similar with Blue Sun Zenith. So basically Blue Sun Zenith is X blue for an instant. Target player draws X cards, shuffle Blue Sun Zenith on its library. So this is really useful because obviously, it's going to be reduced by the commander, so we can just, recycle all the mana that we have from all the mana that we're getting from casting all those scry cards, and just put them into Blue Sun Zenith and just draw like a heap of cards, which could potentially be really useful. And then Ugin's Insight is a personal favorite card of mine. I really like this card. I run it in heaps of decks. You see it in a lot of my lists. So it's 3 blue for a sorcery, scry X is the highest CMC among opponents you control, and then draw 3 cards. So when Elements is out, this will be at least 5, which is really good. So just the base value, let's say you can, sorry, let's say Elements is out, it's going to be 5 mana to scry 5, make the next instant sorcery cost 5 less, and then draw 3. I think this is a really underrated card in general, but it definitely fits really well in this deck with the whole scry theme. So with this Scry, obviously, basically Elementor's ability is going to stack for one instant sorcery spell, so the amount of times we Scry is going to build up, but it is not going to stack for, like, spells over the turn. So if we cast one instant or sorcery, the next one we cast isn't going to be reduced. So it's better to play these kind of Scry effects that are creatures, not the instant sorceries, because then, this build-up's going to be wasted, or, the creatures are enchantments that do this. So Eyes of the Watcher is a card that does this quite well. So basically, it is a blue card, obviously, so it's 2 and a blue for the enchantment. Whenever you play an instant sorcery spell, you may pay 1 if you do Scry 2. So basically, every time you cast an instant sorcery spell, you pay that 1, and it's going to make the next thing cost 2 less. So 2 less, so effectively, it's going to cost 1 less, because obviously we're going to be using that mana. So it'll be pay 1, it'll just make the next one cost 1 less, basically. Mystic Speculation is somewhat similar. It's a blue for a sorcery with buyback 2, so if you pay an additional 2 as you cast it, you return it to your hand. And it has Scry 3, so basically this will be 3 mana to Scry 3 and repeatable. So this is technically mana neutral, so it's going to be a good way to dump some of our mana while casting those sorceries, and just reducing the cost of it, and just keep going through the deck, scrying, and look through a heap of our deck while remaining mana neutral and being able to use it for our next instant sorcery and reduce the cost massively. And then finally we have Netherese, I believe, Puzzle-Ward. It's 3 and a blue for an enchantment with Focus Beam at the beginning of your upkeep. Roll a d4, so a 4-sided dice. Scry 4x as a result, or Scry x as a result, and then it has Perfect Illumination. Whenever you roll a die's highest natural result, draw a card. So to give you every upkeep, it's going to be a 1 in 4 chance to draw a card. Not really important. That could be nice if it happens, but really what we're doing is that Scry ability. So basically, this is at the beginning of your upkeep. It'll have the chance to reduce your first instant sorcery from up to 1 till 4 mana, which is definitely worth playing for 4, and we're going to get additional value, obviously. We're going to be looking at the top of our library and kind of setting up what's there for us. So next up, for these cards, we have the synergies. So Archaeomancer is a really useful synergy. So it's 2 blue for a human wizard 1/2. When it ETBs, return an instant sorcery from your graveyard to your hand. So as I mentioned, all the payoffs we're using are all sorceries. So they're all going to be massive costed sorceries. And so basically we want to return them and reuse them if we can, possibly by even, reducing the cost. That would just be really useful, obviously, and it'll kind of help out in general. Swarm Intelligence also does a similar thing. It's just doubling it, 6 blue for an enchantment. Whenever you cast an instant sorcery spell, you may copy it, choose targets. So basically, this is useful for a couple different spells. Some of the Scry and whatnot might use that well. But basically, what it's in here for is for the big game-ending spells. It's going to double them up, and it's going to win us the game, because doing the exact same thing. Basically, although we're only included for some select spells, it's so useful that basically there's almost no chance we're going to be winning with some of those big spells we're playing. Oath of Teferi is just nice synergy with the commander. It's 3 white blue for a legendary enchantment. When it ETBs an exile on the permanent you control, return it to the battlefield under its owner's control at the beginning of the next end step. So that's a useful ability. Might be some protection. It's not particularly important. That's not really relevant. What is relevant is the second ability. You may activate the loyalty abilities of planeswalkers you control twice each turn rather than once. So basically, it's going to double that Scry. 4 instances of Scry, 1 instance of Draw is really useful. Or that second ability, make a heap of 1/1s possibly if we could as well. Just really useful kind of synergy there. So as I mentioned with those X spells for Blue Sun Zenith, they are really useful for ending the game. So those big spells I've been talking about, cards like Finale of Glory. It's X white for a sorcery. Create X 2/2 white soldier creature tokens with vigilance. If X is 10 or more, or you also create X 4/4 white angel creature tokens with flying and vigilance. So we get both of them. We get the 2/2s and the 4/4s for that. If we go over 10, which we can do quite easily in this deck, because realistically, what late gamers we've got our turn set up, we can draw heaps of cards. We're gonna have heaps of cards in our deck. That are drawing us cards. So basically, we're gonna have a massive hand, and it's gonna be really easy that we've scored, let's say 6. This will cost 6 mana only. To get 8 4/4s and 8 2/2s, which is just really useful, really easy to end a game like that, especially for doubling it. And X spells just scale really well with the amount of mana we're creating, because the more mana we make, the more we can put into it, and the better a payoff it is. But other spells are also great, like Mnemonic Deluge. So it's 6 blue for a sorcery. Exile target instant sorcery card from a graveyard. Copy that card 3 times. You may cast a copy without paying for their mana cost, and then exile Mnemonic Deluge. So that doesn't work on the X spells, which isn't great, but it does work on a heap of other spells. So again, once we reduce this card, it shouldn't cost too much. And then we can cast all kinds of incredible cards from our deck, like Spell Twine, that just have crazy effects, and just go off using all these copying all these massive game-ending sorceries to potentially really easily get a win off that. So that's up. Yeah, I hope you guys like this deck. I think Elements is a really interesting commander. Let me know if you think he is as well, because I definitely overlooked him at the start. I hope this kind of reminds you guys to take a look at him, because he's definitely quite cool. He can do some really interesting stuff, and obviously incorporating my favorite cards about Magic, drawing cards. So scrying and drawing cards, really powerful things to do. Picking what cards you get and making sure that you get heaps of them. Obviously, it's going to get you to win the game quite easily, and then his ability to synergize really well as well. So that even that second ability, we didn't really use it. But there are some cards in the deck, high costed cards that flipping them off after we've scried so many is going to really easily get us heaps of 1/1s to potentially even win the game through that. So this is a really dynamic deck. It's going to be doing so much, giving us so much value, and just heaps of different cards and heaps of different routes to winning the game. Crazy effects are going to happen. Let me know what you think of it. Let me know if you want to see a different commander from Baldur's Gate in a different video. Let me know if you see any other kind of video as well. If you like this kind of content, make sure to leave a like, and if you want to see more, subscribe, comment what you think, and I'll see you guys all next time. Thank you so much for watching.